I guess it was just, like you said, you know, an experiment or something to see how 8 guys from different backgrounds and different, you know, different kind of lives and stuff would get together and work things out and live. Greg Peterson, the first time I saw him, he kind of reminded me of a big dude, like you'd see out on the outlaw ranch or something.
Well, it wasn't like just getting away from it all. It was, you really had to really want to do this. It was had to have a love for the wilderness, and it wasn't just like going out for a weekend, John.
When you got somebody like Fred there, you know, you kind of want to follow what he says and what he believes in and stuff, but that's not the way he wanted it.
John, he's one from Texas. Like I was telling my life story, and I think he helped a great deal just by sitting there and asking all the questions. You know, your first impression, you stay with the guy for 73 days, and all of a sudden it's just changed totally around.
Bill Nestigan was only 15, but at the end of the trip, when the pressure really got rough, he kept his head better than most of us. On the trip, many times I wouldn't open up, I wouldn't say what I really thought. There was this Mike Portland. He came, and first off, I thought he was kind of a tough little kid. It was really something how we could get together and work together so good too, because, well, at the beginning of the trip I didn't know anybody else that was going except this one kid, and that was Mike. But then once we started working together, and we just got along together, and those group meetings did really help. Like we'd have them for an hour, maybe an hour and a half, just about every night, and like we'd tell each other our life stories, and then a person would tell another person that he got mad at him and stuff like that. That really helped out a lot. How I got involved in this the first time is I was up at Red Wing, and that's a training school, and I met Fred up there, and he was on this surround program up there, and we went out this one Sunday afternoon, and he was telling me about it, and I told him that I'd really like to go and stuff like that, and a little while later we got talking about it more and more, and then finally he gave me an invitation to go. So I talked to my parents, and they said it'd be all right to go, and then I got paroled from Red Wing, and I was out for 8-9 days, and then I went on the trip. It was really a fantastic trip because I learned a lot of stuff that I had never known before. Because I think about the longest canoe trip I ever went on before was about 3 days or so, and this was quite a bit longer. Our first stop was at International Falls, and that was after 9 days after we left the base. And between there and International Falls, it was like the beginning of football practice or some kind of a practice, you know, kind of getting in shape and, you know, getting to know these other guys and learning new stuff. But after that, things started growing, and, you know, love started coming out, and relationships started growing. And after that, it was just like you got in the regular season of football. You know, it started really moving nice, and things went this way and that way, you know, bad or good, and you learn to live with it. In order to make the trip go through, we had to be close, because for 24 hours we were living and working, eating, and, you know, just doing everything together. And take it from us that if you live with 8 or 7 different other guys for 75 days, you have to tell them what you think, and what they have to tell you what you think, and it's just got to go. Otherwise, the whole thing just falls through, because then a couple guys will go off in one corner and then they won't want to work, and if this happens, then the trip would just fell through.
As I sit here in Lake of the Woods, surrounded by wind and waves, an unbelievable size and power, I can't really believe that Gary and I run around in a car and spend late hours doing nothing. Going back to such seemingly mundane things seems impossible. How can I go to band and settle into the strict routines? How can I go back to where people fuss about my hair? How am I going to readjust to regular life after living in the wilderness for 70 days? This was where we got our little swivel technique. We'd ride up the sides of the waves, and everybody would lean from the waist up to one side in order to keep the canoe upright as we went through the waves, and we called it swiveling, naturally. Here comes the wave, swivel. So we all swiveled, and we didn't get wet. We've been on the trail for 2 weeks. We have 50 days left until we reach the train on August 26th. 50 days and about 1,000 miles instead of 70 days and 1,250 miles. We kind of got on Dave about his brawn philosophy this morning. He was kind of bugged. Steve had been asking him about his seeming interest only in hunting and guns and killing wildlife and things. And Dave was, well, he was trying to defend himself. He was really pretty bugged for quite a while. I wasn't feeling too good about Greg either, and I asked him about himself. He'd be getting harder and harder to get along with all week. Ornery and selfish and all that kind of stuff. Up until International Falls, I hadn't had any trouble getting along with him. He seemed real friendly and nice. And there hadn't been any problems. But after Kenora, I didn't feel right with him. It seemed like he was drawing into himself more. And he was just getting meaner. We decided to shoot the rapids in a more exciting spot down through the standing waves just for the sake of the film. I remember going down on the rocks and watching the water run through the little side gullies, little rocks over towards the side, and watching it stream down, and then looking out over the rapids. It was really a nice spot.
Or when we were windbound on Lake Winnipeg, I was going to go out and get some firewood. And Ron came up to me and says, well, I'll go along with you, I'll come and help. And I said, no, I don't need any help, And then Tom come up about a minute afterwards. He says, well, I'll come with you and help. I said, yeah, okay, why don't you come along? And a couple of the guys overheard this when Ron come up and brought it up in group, and we discussed it. And there we started talking about our dislikes and likes that we had with Ron. We, I just kind of shut him off. I didn't want him to come with him because I didn't really want to be with him that much. And then Tom asked, and since I was, close to Tom, I said, sure, come along. And through this GGI that we had and the discussions and stuff, that we got, into Ron's problems and into what we thought was Ron's problem, and what we felt that Ron, could do to change. And through this, I think Ron has changed. I think we all have changed to accept other people. Tom and I were, when we first started, or first met and stuff, we wanted to be good friends, I think, and we both fronted. I know that right now, that he liked to hunt and fish, and all the outdoor stuff, and so I did too, and so I think we kind of put a front on for us just to get, closer together, and for him to be my friend, And to do this, we'd have to just kind of stretch a few stories or, something like that, and then Tom would reverse it, and then it'd keep going back and forth like this until finally we realized we were both doing it, and it just kind of hung on from there. And
in the beginning, I think we, like Dave said, he and I, we kind of, I think we fronted to be serious, because we wanted to be friends, and then towards the end we would front just for a joke, we knew what each other were thinking. There was one experience that me and Dave went through. It was trying really. When we were running out of food, we decided that we'd walk back 5 miles where there was a river where we could catch some fish, because we couldn't catch it on a lake; it was too rough. So we walked back to the river, and it was real cold. I suppose about 45 degrees, and the wind was blowing. It was raining real hard. Cold rain, and we got down there. We couldn't get a fire started, and couldn't catch any fish either. We stayed down there for about a half an hour, and we started on the way back. And it was getting colder, and we were soaked to the bone. And we came back, we were dead, couldn't hardly walk.
We said it was something like a living hell. We've never really realized what hardships were until we went on this thing. And walking 5 miles in just miserable weather and stuff, and cold and hungry, it was just like it was a living hell, At the beginning of the trip, Fred had told us that he was not going to be somebody who's going to guide us into religion, you know, and he did not really want us to follow his ways or his religion. You know, he wanted us to, you know, kind of seek it out for ourselves and see what we'd learn, you know, because when you got somebody like Fred there, you know, you kind of want to follow what, you know, what he says and what he believes in and stuff, but that's not the way he wanted it. And I think every one of us individually kind of learned, you know, what our God meant.
We could really hurt each other with things that we said. I mean, if we didn't say them right, I mean, there were some things that we knew. If we said them, we knew each other we were kidding, you know. There's other things that you could really, we never cut each other down really. Because we didn't have any urge to do it. And, well, we did, but we worked it out. And we might have. We worked it out in group. And I'm sure if he would have just said some of the things that we said in between each other, that we were just kidding in between each of us to somebody just off, that you knew it wasn't real close to a friend, it would, they would probably hate you from then on.
There was one comment that Fred made a couple of times, was that like, we were about the only guys that could really get at him and hurt him, you know, in a way like he could really feel it. So I think that's how close we got to Fred and the rest of the guys. We got that close that we just hurt him right out, you know, and really get to somebody.
One way that Fred said that you can measure love is by how much you can hurt another person. And like Ron said, Fred said that we were the one group that could hurt him the most, you know, a few individuals in there.
had to work together. We had to think of the other guy. We couldn't afford to be selfish. And there were times there when I was too. That one day on the Hayes River, just after that beautiful night that beautiful evening, through that canyon, where we set up on that real small campsite. And I said, we ought to have a group in the morning. A lot of my bad feeling was just because of the fact that I couldn't really control myself the way I should. I couldn't control my emotions. I couldn't control the way I acted. Even as different as all these guys are from me, and as many times as we had problems, like Dave and I, or Greg and I, we have this big thing in common, and it's neat. I don't know anybody here that's like any of y'all. Nobody at all. I miss it. It's neat to feel that kind of kinship with people so different. With Greg from a reform school. Horrors, people around here like that are just, oh man, the crowd I run around with, we just cut those people down right and left. I know one of the major differences in me now is that the experiences that other people think are so great and so worthwhile as regards group dynamics and stuff like that seem just kind of trite to me,
I know I myself was scared of rapids, and I still am, because I don't really want to, swamp in any rapids and bust my head open or anything like that, or break a leg. I suppose, like when I go on future canoe trips, and that I'll always be scared of rapids, because of the rocks and that. But as the trip went on, I got used to it, and I don't know, I learned how to go through rapids pretty good, and just got the hang of it.
It's such a strange sensation to just turn and just see a boulder go flying by the canoe. There was one time I was with Dave, he goes to the left, and so I just start turning it, and this boulder just comes flying by the side of the canoe, and I'm just doing everything I can, and all these rocks are just whoosh, 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 and you can't do anything about it.
It all seemed good now. It was so rotten and so god-awful while we were going through it. We were walking the rapids on the Hayes or pulling up the Nelson. It was just, man, it was the worst thing in the world, and none of us could wait to get off the trail. But that was a really satisfying thing to do now that I look on it, look back on it. Of course it was, the lowest depths of hell then, but I just haven't had anything at all to equal that since. I really do wish that I could do something like that again. I wouldn't look forward to the work, really, knowing, how hard the work would be and how cold and wet and generally run down and rotten we would feel for so long. I wouldn't look forward to that, but I would look forward to the feeling that it would give me afterwards. The sense of just pushing yourself just as hard as you can for just so long, and then reaching your goal and being able to sit back and relax and not have to do a single thing you don't want to. and just feeling good that you did it, that we paddled 1,265 miles all under our own power. Man, that was great. Now that I look back on it and look back through all the damn slogging through the mud and trying to throw our ropes over the trees and paddling up that damn current, oh man, it was rough. It really was rough. And I still am firmly convinced that that is the hardest physical work I've ever done, and that's the biggest mental strain, the greatest mental pressure I've ever been under in such a concentrated period of time. I know that. That's a fact. But it was also the most satisfying afterwards. I think I have, like I said before, I think I've missed all this subconsciously. I haven't really thought about it much, but I think the feeling has been there these months that I haven't been on the trails. The feeling that although many of the things that I'm doing are worthwhile, going to school is worthwhile, things I'm learning or sort of learning are worthwhile in their own way, because, you know, you can't spend your whole life on a canoe trip. That won't work. But so far, you know, I just haven't found any experience equal to that in the sense of accomplishment, the sense of personal pride that it gave me.
I think it gives a good base, this canoe trip we had in the Opus. I think it gives a good base for the rest of our lives, you know, because now we've realized how, you know, how open we can be and realize the extent of it. And I think that in relationships to come that we can kind of be as open as we want, you know, or as closed as we want. And I think that if the other person, you know, is as open as we are, I think that the relationship will grow just like it was on the canoe trip.
Mm-hmm.